Jesus is the one that said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Truth is a person, and truth today is, man. There's so many different things that are eroding truth. We're redefining truth, and truth isn't something you create. Truth is something you discover.
Welcome in to the Church at the Springs podcast. This is something we've not ever done before, and that's something that I feel like we say a lot here at the Springs. But I've got my dad, our lead pastor. I'm just putting that out there already. This is my father, Ron, Sylvia. So if you hear me call him dad, that's why. But this is my dad. How's it going?
It's good. It's good. I'm excited, man. This is like our first.
This is incredible because, like I said, this is something we've never done. And I wanted to really quickly, if you're listening to this, you may have gotten the heads up yesterday on social media that we were putting this out there, or you stumbled across us. We are a church located in Central Florida across 4 locations. And why we're doing this is because oftentimes I have felt myself that the Sunday message typically dies on Sunday unless we're doing things like devotionals and group study questions related to the message, which are all things that are going to come with this.
Yeah.
So because we're doing this, we're going to, so you guys that are listening and watching right now, in the description of this episode, there is going to be group questions that you can do with your small group related to this message, as well as a 5-day devotional link that you guys can go to. And that'll be something we do for this entire series that we're in, which is parental guidance. And that's right now, that's the plan, is to just do this podcast kind of series specific. If it becomes long-term and we do it all the time, great. But right now, we just thought that this was such an important series, something that people and parents definitely need. And so we wanted to make these messages especially last longer because there's a lot of really great things. Now, can you really quickly give me kind of just a rundown of, you taught your message the other day, what the brief overview was? What are the bird's eye view things about the message?
I think for me, the bird's eye view was I wanted to make parents aware of all the cultural, we call them rapids that are coming at, everything from technology to the culture and morals and values and everything that is impacting families. And then how do we on a daily basis live a life and raise our kids to grow up to have a foundation of their faith that'll go on into their adult years.
The big takeaway for me was that you address what will come in this series. We know the joys of parenthood. We know the hardships, but we don't like to talk about them. Yeah. Even among parents, we don't like to talk because it's like, what if this parent does this thing better and I talk about this problem I have and they can't relate? That's embarrassing.
Right.
Parents want to feel like they've got other parents. And that was kind of the whole headline. Like, nobody's perfect. And you went through and outlined the topics, right? You acknowledged that we're going to talk about technology. We're going to talk about changing of roles as well, I believe, as parents too, as they go through their life. And also a big one, identity.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to ask you, if you were a parent in today's day and age, for you personally, knowing what you know, having raised 3 boys into men, what is something from this series that you would say that is what I would need to hear the most?
Wow. I think that's tough because it is so different today, raising kids. I cannot imagine with everything in culture, how do you raise kids? But I would say technology's a big one because I think that's the big parental fight, right? How much screen time do you give them? What do you allow them to do? But identity's going to be a big one.
Yeah.
Because we always worried about our kids growing up and having a solid identity as, who they were, how God made them, created them, and what their skills were, their gifts were, and building character in their life. But today, man, you throw, sexual identity and all the gender identity challenges. And I think if we as parents don't know how to have those conversations, and understand from a biblical standpoint, okay, what does God say about it? And I think the big one about that for me, Luke, is I want to teach parents how to have conversations, not arguments,
Yeah.
because you need to know what you believe and address culture that way. And and that's what is it? Romans 12:2 says, "Don't copy the patterns of the world, but but let God transform your mind and the way you think, because the way you think becomes the way you behave."
And for me, as a parent, one of the things that you said that I took away from the most, my big takeaway from Sunday's message was, if you don't address these things, then the world will. And that's such it's like, as I have grown as a parent and as I became one almost 4 years ago, I have just been searching, and all I do is a lot of the time, a lot of the content I have is people that are talking about parenting and how to have conversations with people in general, but especially your kids.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if you don't have them, and like you said on Sunday, somebody else will. And in this instance, it's the world, right? And this goes for everything. And I'm hoping, and I think that this will get unpacked some too throughout the series. But when it comes to even things such as encouraging your children, loving your children, and addressing those topics, that same method goes for all of those. If you don't love your children, someone else will.
Right.
If you don't encourage them, they'll find someone who will. So that was good for me. Another thing that you said in this message was that we need to make sure that we are building the foundation of our faith and our parenthood and building our home on truth and not trends. Because the truth that we believe is Jesus.
Yeah. Well, Jesus is the one that said that I am the way, the truth, and the life. Truth is a person, and when we understand and we align our lives with Jesus, his teaching, and live our lives that way, we're aligning our lives with truth. And truth today is, there's so many different things that are eroding truth. We're redefining truth. Yep. And truth isn't something you create. Truth is something you discover, because truth has always been truth. And I said that Sunday. If it was true 2,000 years ago, it's going to be true 2,000 years from now. And yet we have these. Nobody wants to own absolute truth. Relativism says that I can believe what I want to believe, and we're both right. That's illogical. That's like me and you sitting down, and I say, you know what? I'm thinking the Earth is flat.
Right.
And you say, no.
Right.
The Earth is round.
The truth is, it's round.
But, we're both right. No, you're not.
Yeah.
One of you's wrong.
You can't leave it. There's not been a two people, because that conversation happens. The flat Earth versus it not being flat. You cannot leave that conversation just in agreement.
No.
The truth is the truth for each of you in that instance, but the truth is actually the absolute truth that the world is round. And that person who thinks that way, you're going to walk away and you're going to say, that person's crazy.
Yeah. Well, the supreme value today is tolerance more than truth. We value tolerance more than truth, and we've even redefined tolerance. Because tolerance today, it used to mean, we can disagree and still treat each other with respect. But tolerance has been redefined today, meaning that both of our values are true, and you're going to agree with me that mine's true.
Right.
And that's why we have the wars and the battles. It's like, no, truth doesn't change.
And it took me to a couple different scriptures when we think about where we build our foundation. What does the Bible say about that foundation? And that's Matthew 7:24 is, building your life on God and our faith is like building it on bedrock. The rain's going to come, the wind's going to come, but the house will remain the same. It will remain intact because of the foundation. And if we build our life on trends, it's more like sand. And we could very much expect that will shift and change the structure of your home drastically. And it also reminded me of Matthew 13:3-9, which talks about the planting of the seeds on the path. They all landed somewhere, but only one place in the fertile soil did you see growth. And that is Jesus. That is truth. And, it even like I thought it was interesting, and maybe this likens a little bit to trends, but the planting on the shallow soil where it planted quickly, but it eroded, everything ended with those plants' lives so quickly because the roots weren't deep. The soil wasn't deep.
It's so fleeting. It's so changing. It's, and I talked with Bo Williams, who's a counselor here at the Springs. They've been around for a long time, and I just asked him after the service. I said, he counsels children, and I said, do you see these cultural issues? And he said, yeah. And we talked, and he said something. He said, you know what? Here's the thing. We all grew up playing games, and every game had boundaries, and we had fun in the boundaries. Yeah. Like baseball. You know what? You don't strike out and then say, but I feel like I should be on first base. Right?
Right.
Nobody does that, and everybody knows that. But yet today, everybody wants to redraw their own boundaries when God says, this is a boundary, this is truth. It's not confining, it's freeing. I'm not here to damage and limit your life. I'm here to expand and give you joy and life to the abundant. And I think when we live that way, the Scripture promises you're going to have a good life.
And another great point that was made was we aren't raising kids. We're raising adults. And then you go on to say that our job is to train up your children and prepare them. And then I love that you ended it with to leave.
Yeah.
And that goes into that, right? We're not raising kids, we're raising adults. One day they're going to leave. One day you're not going to be here anymore. You've only got so much time to influence your kids before they're gone and before maybe they aren't respecting you as much anymore. You need to pour into them now.
And I think, so many parents want to mold their kids into who they think they should be. And the challenge, because every child is unique, God created them that way. It's like, no, you have to unfold them into who God wants them to be. And I think that's something that we all have to constantly be thinking about. And, even in discipline, we look at discipline, and we're going to talk about that in the series as well. But discipline is really for development, not punishment. And I think we get that wrong. Because we're developing them into the adults that God wants them to be. We're using all of these conversations and whether it's restrictions or guardrails, to keep you. It's that whole principle of the path. Wherever you're headed is where you're going. I know that's deep, but that we get that geographically, but we don't get that, in character development and relationally and financially. It's like set your feet on solid ground. That's what we do as parents. We guide.
And I will say, as a parent of a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, when my 3-year-old is acting out, which people that know my daughter would say she never acts out. She acts out for sure. But in those moments at night when she is just prolonging bedtime, pushing it back, the last thing I'm thinking about is, I'm going to discipline for development.
Yeah.
And I think that is something that you're at that moment you're just so mad.
Yeah.
You're like, no, I'm disciplining for punishment, and I'm not thinking about the development side.
First of all, your daughter never acts out.
That's what I'm talking about.
I just want to get that out publicly. Yeah. She's the most beautiful little girl. She's the love of our lives. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever.
But it's, I think so many times when we look at discipline, we discipline in the moment. And it's reactionary. And, Scripture says, fathers, don't provoke your children to anger. But the flip side of that is, you're not going to reason with a 3-year-old.
Right.
You're not going to sit down and have a conversation. How'd that make you feel? What if we do? Don't go there.
Yeah.
Come on. She's 3. Guide her. Help her.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing, too, is that you highlighted in this message that I thought was awesome was you cannot outsource the spiritual development of your child, because before that you were talking about how we think that we come to church, they're good. We send them to a Christian school, they're good. I was doing a plan this morning, and I forget who it's by, a parenting plan, but the point that they made was that there are going to be a lot of voices in the lives of your children, but yours is the strongest.
Yeah.
Whether you're loud or you're quiet, yours is the strongest one, and you just have to take that seriously. This is an incredibly serious job that we've been gifted with, and it is a gift, but it's something we need to take seriously as a result.
And I think we do that, and we feel like, because parents don't feel like, man, I don't have the time for all this, and I get it. I mean, most homes, two parents, they're both working full-time jobs, and they're navigating, getting their kids to school and doing homework and making sure they're fed and make sure their clothes are clean. I mean, it's exhausting. But like Deuteronomy said, but you have to find the rhythm of life, that what you're doing, insert conversations about God. And, it's that whole, as you sit down at breakfast, as you pray with them at night, as you drive them to Carline, it's like that's where we have to think, because we just have to leverage the time that we have.
And also, so that was kind of the synopsis and talking a little bit more in depth with you about Sunday's message, which your conversations, like you said, with Bo Williams, like this is those conversations shared on this platform is what this platform is for. What did you say, or whoever taught at our Ocala campus on Sunday, what did you say that carries over? What were the conversations that took place? And we want this to be one of the conversations, but we want you to have that conversation with other people. So like I said earlier, in the description, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple, podcast, YouTube, whatever it is, in the description, we are going to have group questions there for you guys to go over with your groups, talk about it with your spouse. It doesn't have to be a group. These group questions, it can just be you and your spouse talking about the message, and or you can do the 5-day devotional.
Yeah.
So that'll be there as well. We want this to live past Sunday.
Yeah. And I think the other thing that's coming this weekend at Ocala in Southwest is to sign up for a parenting group. Yeah. We're going to start a new season of groups, just kind of pull the curtain back.
Yeah.
Our goal and hopes is that we're going to connect you with parents that are in the same season of parenting as you are.
Yeah.
Around the table. And we're going to do it right here in the auditorium at Ocala. And you're going to meet new friends. You're going to find hope.
Yeah.
And that's what parents need. Parents need a community of other parents so that they don't think they're crazy. Right.
Yeah. And I think those will be great. So we'll have those signups coming this weekend that you can do that. Don't miss it. It'll be life-giving for you, if nothing else, to just establish relatability with other parents. Yeah. The stuff that you're, like I said at the top, like that you're scared to talk about. But you mentioned really quickly before we wrap up, you mentioned peeling back the curtain a little bit. I just wanted to get into pulling back the curtain on your what does your sermon prep look like? The prep day or the week? Do you prep throughout the week? How does it? Because the amount of people I have told, my dad is a pastor growing up, and they said, "Cool, what does he do the other 6 days of the week?" It's like So really quickly here, could you just kind of sum up what you're, as quick as you can? I know it's a ton of stuff, but throughout the week, kind of what you're doing, and then what is your designated time to really prep for this message and what it looks like for you?
The perfect rhythm is Tuesday, Wednesdays. Tuesday, I'll have a teaching team meeting with all the guys that are teaching voices at the Springs, and we'll go through the message, and we'll sit down and speak in, okay, which scriptures are we going to sit on, and then we'll converse about those, and then we'll build an outline, and that's a launching pad of conversation from other voices. I really value other voices. It makes us all better teachers. And then I'll spend a couple hours, hopefully that day, just kind of doing research around the topic. And then I'll do another 2 hours on Wednesday. But Thursday is what I call cave day. That's the day I'll get in like 6:30, and I will lock up in my office, and everybody on staff knows.
Can confirm.
you're not getting through that door.
Right.
And because that's when I'm locking down and informing the outline, building, sitting down with Bible study software and just digging in and trying to come out with something, and then looking at current events and looking at culture and data and pulling it together. So I'll do about, and then at Friday morning we do capture and shoot a video, but I'll do about 20 hours a week on a message.
Yeah. And the other is spent just simply making sure that everything, meeting with people, investing in people, whether that be staff or whoever, and people at the church as well, and just, building that out and continuing to keep everything going and afloat. So that is your week. I just wanted to kind of give a peek behind the curtain there. I will likely do that with any new speaking voice that we have from the Ocala campus, just so you guys know. I love like transparency and how things happen and why they happen. I know people find that interesting. And so, yeah, I appreciate the time coming on. We're going to be doing this for the Parental Guidance Required series, sitting down. Likely episodes will be released every Wednesday morning. So you guys will have that, and as well with those resources that we've talked about. But anything else to add before we get out of here?
No, I mean, I just hope that what we want to give parents, we want to give you resources and relationships, because those are the things we're always looking for, and we're going to be putting those out. And I've got a stack of books here that we've been going through and reading and learning from, and there's so many great resources. And we want to make those available, and we're going to probably roll a lot of those out right here for you.
This is a cool platform to have right now. We're able to, talk about events that we've got coming up. Likely throughout this, we will have maybe some staff spotlights eventually where we just sit down with, it would serve as a bonus episode. Sit down with people, where you're from, your background, how'd you get here?
That.
Why are you in ministry? Why do you think that you were called to this, and why are you still doing it? And what do you get from it? What do you feel like God does in your life because you serve in ministry? So those are the kind of the things to be on the lookout for. And also, there's not many ways that we know if you guys like this content. So the biggest things is to leave reviews on the platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, on YouTube if you like the video. Just things like this that show us that you want more of this content. And we're going to continue to do this for the PG series no matter what, but it will help us gauge in the future, is this something we want to sit down and do? And do our people enjoy this enough? And do they feel like they're being invested in enough for us to do that? So again, appreciate your time, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
See you.